So Anthony Joshua wins his professional debut with a first round KO over Emanuele Leo. Now, I thought this went about as well as a professional debut could go. There was every reason for Anthony Joshua to lose his composure, to get over anxious, and to come out swinging wild punches, trying too hard to get a knockout and trying too hard to impress. There was every reason for him to do that because he was under a lot of pressure. And he was in very unusual circumstances for a guy making his pro debut. You know, for one, it was scheduled for 6 rounds. No one fights in a 6-rounder in their pro debut. Right, so that was very unusual to start with. Secondly, he was a co-main event in front of a massive crowd. Yeah, that is very unusual for a guy making his pro debut. Thirdly, he was fighting a guy who was 8-0. Yeah, again, very unusual for a fighter making his pro debut to fight someone that's 8-0. Yeah, we know Emanuele Leo is not very good, but he's still an 8-0 fighter. You know, he still has a better record than the guy Klitschko or Tyson or Lewis or Holyfield or Ali. Still better than the guys they fought on their pro debuts. And none of those guys had to fight in front of a massive crowd with all that pressure. And all of those guys were far more experienced as amateurs than Anthony Joshua is. So Joshua deserves extra credit for the performance that he put on against Emanuele Leo, because there was every reason, even though the opposition wasn't great, there was every reason for him to go out there, try too hard and make a bunch of mistakes and look sloppy. There was every reason for him to do that, a young kid like him, in front of that crowd with all that pressure and on Sky. But he didn't. He remained composed, he picked his shots, and he did very, very well. Obviously, there's things to work on. But, you know, who the hell turns professional as the finished article? Everyone has things to work on from their pro debut. Yeah, from Tyson, Ali, Lewis, all of them had stuff to work on in their pro debut. No one is the finished article when they turn professional. That's just normal. But he came out in the first round. He pumped the jab. He was picking his shots. He wasn't rushing anything. He let the openings come. He didn't try and force anything. He was just using his jab, letting Emanuele Leo lead off, and then he was coming in with some nice crisp counters. Early on in the round, he was punching at the target rather than through the target. So Leo was able to take Joshua's shots early on. But once Joshua got his range, once he found his range and he realized he could tag this guy almost at will, he then started stepping in with the punches and getting more power in them. And that's when you saw Emanuele Leo go down and get counted out. So yeah, the opposition wasn't great, but it's not so much the, beating the opposition that was impressive. It was the mentality. Yeah, it was the way he was able to deal with the pressure, and perform like that. That's what was so impressive about Anthony Joshua. And that's something I've been impressed with him since he was, in the amateurs. The first video I made about Anthony Joshua was about 2 years ago. It's still up on my old channel, Hatman TV. So you can go search that. Just go to Hatman TV on YouTube, my old channel. Go to the channel page and in the search box, type in Anthony Joshua and you'll see the video come up. Did it about 2 years ago. It was just after Anthony Joshua fought in the Amateur World Championships where he won a silver medal. And I said from back then that this kid is going to be the best heavyweight prospect in the UK. Better than David Price, better than Tyson Fury, better prospect than all those guys. Not just because of his physical attributes, not just because he's, 6'6" and he's athletic and he's got, speed and power and all that kind of stuff. No, not just because of that, but because of his mentality. Yeah, because of his mentality. It's so important that fighters have the right mentality, and that's something that I always felt was missing in David Price. Yeah, those of you who've been following my channel will know that I was never sold on David Price. I was never on the David Price hype train because I saw David Price a lot in the amateurs and I saw him capitulate. I saw him crumble mentally in a lot of fights in the amateurs. So as much as David Price had the size and, power and all that kind of stuff, mentally I wasn't convinced by him, whereas Anthony Joshua was the opposite. Anthony Joshua showed me very, very early on in his amateur career that mentally he was 100%. He had very little experience, 3 years experience when he went to the World Amateur Championships, and he got in there with the best heavyweights in the world, and he showed no fear and no respect for them, you know, which is the opposite of David Price. When he went in with the best amateurs in the world, David Price was very intimidated, you know, and these are the kind of things you can't teach a fighter. So Joshua has always impressed me with his mentality. Yes, he has a lot to work on, but he's a very inexperienced kid, even as an amateur, only 4 years experience as an amateur overall. But he got a lot achieved in the amateurs. You know, some people say he lost to Erislandy Savon in the Olympics and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he did, but it's irrelevant. Mike Tyson lost to Henry Tillman twice in the amateurs. Yeah, Lennox Lewis lost to Tyrell Biggs in the amateurs. Losing an amateur fight on points is not a big deal, people. Yeah, it's the manner of the loss. You know, you don't when you look at a guy as inexperienced as Anthony Joshua, you don't expect him to be the finished article. Yeah, what you're looking for is the potential to work with. And one of the crucial elements that you want in a fighter, besides the height, the reach, the athleticism and the power and speed and all that, one of the crucial elements is the mentality. The thing that you can't teach, the intangible. And Anthony Joshua has that. He has the mentality. He has the killer instinct. He's not intimidated by anyone. Yeah, this is what he has. It's very rare in boxing to get a whole combination of these elements of the physical ability and the mentality in one, especially a heavyweight. But Joshua has it. So I'm not saying he's going to go on and be the greatest heavyweight. I'm not even going to say that he's going to win a world title or anything like that. What I am saying is that he's got the potential to go and do those things. Yeah, he's got the potential to be the best British heavyweight since Lennox Lewis. He's got the potential. Now, there's a difference between having the potential and fulfilling the potential. Yeah, there's a big difference between knowing the path and walking the path. All right, but if he's guided the right way, if he's given the right fights, he has got all the physical and mental ability to be the best British heavyweight since Lennox Lewis. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been studying this kid. I've been watching him since his amateur days. Trust me. Yeah, trust me on this one. And like I said, I've made previous videos about Anthony Joshua. Go watch those videos because I go into more depth about why I think this kid has the potential to be special and why I've got more faith in him and why I've always had more faith in him than people like David Price and Tyson Fury. Although Tyson Fury I do think is a very good fighter as well. But, you know, Tyson Fury has the mentality. That's one thing he does have. Tyson Fury has also a strong mentality. You know, he's not like David Price who gets intimidated and stuff like that. No, Fury is strong mentally. But physically, I don't think Fury is as talented as Anthony Joshua is, you know, from a physical standpoint. But mentally, yeah, Fury does have it. Whereas David Price is, you know, talented physically, but mentally weak. But Joshua has both. He has the physical talent and he has the mental strength, you know, which is why I'm so excited about his potential. You know, so I hope he's brought along the right way. I hope he's not, you know, put in front of massive crowds and made a main event again until he's had at least 10, 15 fights. You know, I've heard some idiot comments on the internet, people saying that he should fight Chisora next and all kind of ridiculous, dumb shit people coming out with. No one fights a legitimate prospect inside their first 10 fights. No heavyweight does that. It's not done. Tyson didn't do it. You know, no one fights a legit heavyweight prospect in the first 10 fights, people. Don't be ridiculous. So, no, there's not going to be anyone that you know about in his first 10 fights. I think potentially one of the first real fights that Joshua could be in, which could happen in maybe a year's time, maybe 18 months' time, could be a fight against Dillian Whyte. Now, Dillian Whyte was the guy who actually beat Anthony Joshua, I think in his third amateur fight, something like that. So they've got history from the amateurs. And Dillian Whyte is currently on a ban. He got his license suspended for about, I think, 18 months or 2 years because he tested positive for a banned over-the-counter training supplement. So Dillian Whyte is out for a couple of years. I think he'll be back in about a year and a half now. About 18 months he'll be back. And, you know, there's a possibility there to match him against Anthony Joshua. At the moment, Dillian Whyte is staying busy. He's been out there sparring with Klitschko. He's sparred with Tyson Fury. And, you know, he's getting a lot of work as a sparring partner right now, Dillian Whyte. So it'd be a natural fight to make, maybe, you know, a year down the line. White against Andy Joshua. It'd be a natural fight to make, and that could be the first real test, first real fight of Andy Joshua's career. I'd definitely be interested to see it. It'd be very exciting. But for now, you can expect Andy Joshua to be, put in there with more, journeyman opposition. That's what we're going to see, and that's what we should see, because what you want from a prospect like Joshua is for him to hone his technique. Yeah, he made a few little mistakes in there against Emanuele Leo. Not because he was over anxious, but because his technique is not refined enough yet. He doesn't yet have a complete, refined professional technique. He still holds his head a bit high, pulls back from punches with his chin in the air. He still makes a few little amateurish technical errors, which can definitely be corrected. But you want to correct all these errors first before you move him up in competition. Yeah, ideally, that's what you want to do. You want to refine his technique first. And once his technique is down pat and you've got his technique refined, then you move him up in competition and face someone better, because he can fall back on that technique. So, yeah, I'm just interested to see where his career goes. I hope he's brought along the right way. He has the potential to go all the way. If he's trained right, if he's managed right, he has the potential to be the best British heavyweight since Lennox Lewis. As far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, drop your comments below. Let me know how you feel about this. Are you excited about this kid? Just let me know how you feel. This is Hatman. I'm out.